Hey, I realize it's been several months since I touched on the subject of autism and Asperger's, or Aspergers. There seems to be some debate as to how it's actually pronounced. I'll stick with Asperger's for now. During that time, I've done some more research, both online and, in bookstores. I've also recently completed this book. I read it during the long drive to Ohio for Christmas. It's called Born on a Blue Day by Daniel Tammet. He's from the UK. And it's a really interesting read because I don't know, how rare is it to be able to get inside the mind of an autistic savant, first person, via his own words. Daniel speculates, or it's been speculated, that his savant abilities, numerically and both in his ability to learn languages very quickly, may have started due to a seizure or a series of seizures he had as a child, which damaged or nudged or changed his brain in some way. It's really fascinating to think about. Well, anyway, reading this book and reading about Daniel's synesthesia, which if you look at the cover, he begins by talking about the world of numbers and how numbers excited him, and certain strings of numbers were more attractive than others because he actually sees numbers in a very visual way. Like each number has an individual look and shape and personality. If I remember correctly, 1 is like a flash of white light, and 6 is just not very, is boring. It's a harder number to get to know, and the number 9 is by far the tallest and most intimidating number. Well, reading this book made me think about the way I think and the way I see things in here. I'm a visual thinker in that I process images, and especially now that I like to make video and I like to toy with photographs with software. I definitely have plans and visions, but I am definitely not a synesthetic, if that's the term, visualizer. In fact, I seem to go the other way. I think in terms of words, which sounds, oxymoronic. Of course, we all think in terms of words because we think in our own language. If you speak English, you think in English, and if you speak Spanish, you think in Spanish. But what I mean by that is that not all the time, but often I even see words in my head. It's not like the words are being typed out as I say them, but if I'm thinking, I actually will see the words and hear them inside my head. In fact, the rhythm of words and the sound and the patterns of words are very important to me. It's one of the reasons why I have so much difficulty writing and being accepting of what I do write, because my natural inclination is to write words that sound good to me. It's not, I want to be able to make sense and I want to be able to get my point across, but the flow and the rhythm and the sound of the words are very important to me too. And the only time I really get to enjoy that to its fullest is when I free write or do like this poetic, flowery free writing. Also, along with that rhythm of words thing, rhythm is very important. I think it's like rhythmic things point to autism or Asperger's in that it is a form of stimming. I know that sounds silly because lots of musicians, I'm sure, think rhythmically all the time. But as a kid, I did a lot of I didn't do like head pounding into walls, but I would slam my head on the pillow over and over, and it had to be rhythmic, and I had to do that until I would basically wear myself out and fall asleep. I can remember doing that. I think one of the main reasons I remember doing it is because for a long time I shared a bedroom and then even a bed with my sister, and of course that drove her crazy. So sometimes I'd try to stop my head, but then I'd be, like kicking my foot in a rhythm because that was soothing to me. Even today, I do this. And sometimes it's very fast, but it's almost always rhythmic. It's not like a slow and then a fast, and it's very rhythmic. And this is a great stem because I can, if it is a stem, because I can hide it in a pocket and do it there. You know what I mean? So, and if I don't have fabric, I can sort of rub fabric. That is acceptable to me. Another way in that I think via words and rhythm, I've come to realize that when I walked, and I am known for walking, it started when I was a child because I grew up in the suburbs. There were no sidewalks. It was at least 2 miles, I think, 2.5 miles to the nearest bus stop. And that bus really only went to like Marymount and then downtown. There were like 2 basic stops for that bus. But as a girl, and especially a teenager, I walked regularly, like these crazy, dangerous, curving roads with no sidewalk routes down to the little town that I lived in, little town of Milford, just to buy something at a drugstore or go to the grocery store. Not grocery store, the drugstore or the library, you know, buy a candy bar or something, because I like to escape. I would walk with my dog, too, and do routes in the different suburbs. But the thing that I did that may or may not be different, that I think is probably different from other people that I know, is that I'm a very rhythmic walker, in that I pick a cadence and I stick to it. You know, it's very militaristic. If I am stepping up on a curb or stepping off of the road to avoid traffic or dealing with gravel or mud or grass, it didn't matter. The main thing was not to break my stride. And I didn't get upset if I broke my stride. It wasn't like it sent me into a panic attack or anything like that, but I wanted to keep that rhythm. And in conjunction with my feet keeping a cadence, there was always a thought pattern, not always, but usually a thought pattern in my head. You hear Roxy? Roxy, watch this. Of course. Dog rolling on the floor. Roll, dog. What would one of these vids be without a Roxy interruption? Anyway, the rhythm would be accompanied, as I said, by like phrases or words. Sometimes it would be something as simple as a name, you know, like the name of someone on NPR, Maura Eliason, Nina Totenberg, Scott Simon. I know, isn't that bizarre? Or even, I remember this one in particular because there's like this vaguely French-sounding phrasing that I don't think means anything, but I would walk to this. Arriba du bois, arriba du bois, arriba du bois. And sometimes I would catch myself actually saying it aloud. Or there'd be a song. And then later in my 20s, when I started reading all these pop psych books and thought that I would try to help myself by pounding in self-affirmations, be like, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of love, or something. And I would pound those things as well. I sing a lot. I make up songs, and Anna has this too. And I think it's, nurture. There could be some nature to it too. But I often will just find a phrase and just sing it and sing it and sing it and sing it. Sometimes I'll change the melody, but I'll be doing the dishes and I'll just sing it's not a real song, but it's a phrase that I've made up or a short verse that I've made up. So I think in terms of the rhythmic sounding of words, and I don't see them as waves. So as I said, it's not synesthesia, but I sometimes see the words, the spelling of the words and the words themselves as I'm doing that as well. Does anyone else that's watching this think like that? I'm just curious. All right. I got this video is about 25 minutes long already. See ya.